Hi everybody, my name's Andy. I'm a senior black belt here at Red Hat, and today I'm here to talk to you about hosted control planes with ROSA. So before I really get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is ROSA. That's our Red Hat OpenShift service on AWS. And Red Hat obviously created this back with AWS back in 2021. It's a native AWS service. It is the managed version of OpenShift on AWS, which gives you all of the benefits of OpenShift with, all of the things like builds, all of the things like CI/CD, all of the things that you love about OpenShift, but with that managed touch that allows you to sleep through the night without having to worry about being woken up by the pager. Together with the AWS support, Red Hat SREs will manage your ROSA cluster and look after that for you, while giving you that centralized billing that you are expecting from AWS, and allowing you to have all of the things you love about OpenShift without having to worry about the day-to-day management of said cluster. One of the great things about ROSA, of course, is the integration with the AWS services, right? So you've got the tight integration with things like S3, things like DynamoDB. I'll touch a little bit more on that later in this presentation. Of course, it's OpenShift. We have been working on this as a company since 2015. OpenShift version 3 came back out in 2015. It is the opinionated, improved upon version of Kubernetes, at least in my opinion. You've got Kubernetes at its core, and then around that we've built all of the things that you need to make Kubernetes work for you in production. In my opinion, it is the enterprise-ready Kubernetes platform. Up to version 4, that was in 2019, we released that on-premise, and then we came through to 2021, where we delivered ROSA, which is our OpenShift on AWS. Today, we have got this next step in that evolution, which is ROSA with hosted control planes. And today, I'm going to explain to you a little bit what that is, why I think you should be absolutely excited about this next version of our OpenShift journey. So what is a hosted control plane at the end of the day? So some of you may be familiar with EKS, for example, or AKS, or GKE. A lot of the versions of a managed Kubernetes platform out there abstract away the control plane. This is giving you that version of ROSA abstracted away. In a classic ROSA installation, you of course have the worker pool, where you've got your various worker nodes. Usually with a OpenShift cluster, you will have an infrastructure pool as well. Those run your routers, your infrastructure, important components to keep your cluster running. And then in addition, you're also going to have your control plane. That's going to have your master component, your etcd, all of the things that are needed to actually control your cluster. All of this adds up to be quite an additional burden on your EC2 instance costs. If you're trying to run a very small cluster, for example, just 2, 3, 4 nodes, maybe it's a development cluster that you're interested in spinning up, or you just have something small that doesn't require a massive cluster, these master control plane EC2 nodes can actually be quite an overhead on the entire cluster costs that you might not want to think about or actually want in general, while still wanting the benefits of OpenShift, or indeed the benefits of ROSA. And it was with this that we actually thought about hosted control planes. What we did is we took all of the master control plane components and we abstracted them away. Now, via a dedicated private link, you have the control plane aspects managed, supported, and hosted by the Red Hat SRE team. All you now need to do is run your worker nodes within your own VPC, similar to your classic ROSA installation, which results for you as all of the benefits of ROSA, while not having to worry about the additional EC2 costs of a master control plane and the infrastructure nodes. So that's what it is. But why? Why should you go for hosted control planes? Well, this is where I'd like to give you a little bit of insight as to some of the benefits of hosted control planes. Number one is you're going to reduce your costs. We had a look at this and we believe that on average, a customer is going to reduce their standard ROSA costs by about 5 times versus hosting the control plane on your own. we're actively seeing somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 per year reduction in cost for a very small ROSA cluster. Not only that, those of you who have been using and loving ROSA for many years will have noticed that the deployment of a ROSA cluster can take up to 40 to 45 minutes. With hosted control planes, we are now actually reducing that to less than 10. And I'm going to show that to you a little bit later in this demo as an actual real-time demo. This increases your flexibility. A lot of people have been asking for the ability to create clusters on demand, remove them on demand, really get into that elasticity option of the cloud. Here, you are actually able to create clusters, remove them when you and your team needs that. I also think this accelerates your time to value. You as a customer, you don't really want to be thinking about your cluster, right? The whole point of using ROSA or a managed OpenShift platform is your focus is on delivering business value to you and your customers. Caring about clusters or building them or removing them at this point, is not really something that most customers are interested in. And we believe that with hosted control plane for ROSA, this allows you to move faster. And indeed, focus on your innovation. Focus on the things that matter to you and not focus on the things that are time-consuming or even energy-draining. You also get the increased reliability. Hosted control plane will always be running on a multi-availability zone control plane. So if an availability zone within your particular region goes down, you can rely on the fact that the control plane will still be available and you can continue running your cluster on demand. One of the other key things is currently with a ROSA Classic cluster, you might want to do an upgrade, but potentially you would like to upgrade your control plane, your nodes at different times. With hosted control planes, you can upgrade your control plane at a different moment from your nodes. Potentially you would like to test something, potentially not. Either way, we're giving this additional flexibility to our customers. And of course, same as our ROSA Classic, hosted control planes, like all ROSA installations, will be supported by Red Hat and AWS together, and it maintains our financially backed 99.95% SLA. Now what I'd like to show you now is how quick and easy it is to spin up a new ROSA with HCP. So here you can see my terminal, and what I'm going to do is actually run the ROSA create cluster command, which I've prepared a little bit in advance. However, you can actually do this yourself. I will share the links to this at the end of the presentation. And all I'm going to do is create a new hosted control plane ROSA cluster with the standard offerings. As you can see, we have now created our ROSA with hosted control planes, and if we go over to the AWS console, what we can see is that only the worker nodes have been created for our cluster. Now that we've spun up our HCP cluster, what we can do is get started with it. Of course, it wouldn't be a ROSA cluster without all of the benefits of ROSA that you know and love. One of these being the deep integration with AWS services. These are things like S3, DynamoDB, AWS Secrets Manager, and many more. We often see customers who are using things like the AWS controllers for Kubernetes in order to integrate their ROSA clusters directly with the AWS native services. For example, what if we have a situation where you would like to give end users of your cluster the ability to create and destroy buckets based on your existing RBAC rules? This is a great example of giving users the ability to interact with the AWS APIs without actually needing to go through the setup and authorization or authentication into the AWS API for those individual users. We can do this via the AWS controllers for Kubernetes. And what I would like to show you today is that ROSA with hosted control planes will work exactly the same as a classic ROSA cluster. So what we're going to do today is, actually as an end user of the cluster, we will create a bucket inside the ROSA cluster, ROSA with HCP that is, and allow that cluster to communicate via the STS method with the AWS API to create that bucket. I'll get started with this now. So here we have the console of our ROSA using HCP cluster that we just built. And what I'm going to do is go into the operator hub and take a look for the ACK S3 operator. And here we have it. Of course, this is a community operator, but that's okay for us for today. And we'll click install. This will take about 20 to 30 seconds. So now that we have the AWS controller for Kubernetes installed for S3, what we can now do is check whether or not our bucket exists. We can do this by running the AWS S3 ls command. Nope, it's not there. What we can now do is take a look at a standard Kubernetes resource, which is this bucket type. This is created within the Kubernetes API. Now what we're going to do is, using our ROSA with HCP, create this bucket directly from the command line. And again now, if I take another look at that S3 command, you can see now that our bucket has been created inside S3. And indeed, what we can now do is delete this bucket again. And indeed now we can see the bucket has been deleted. So that's a great way of showing that ROSA with HCP is indeed as integrated as classic ROSA with AWS. So I hope that's given you a great introduction to hosted control planes on ROSA, and I'm excited to announce that it is available in technical preview today. If you'd like to get started with HCP on ROSA, there is a link to the documentation here on the slide, or if you'd like to learn more, you can always reach out to your local AWS or Red Hat expert at any time. Thank you very much for watching.